Hello to the very few people who will probably see this. This one is live, unlike some of the ones I've done recently, which have been pre-recorded and then um, discussed and some reviews and things. This is just live play, Sunday afternoon, 450 NL tables on the go. Set them so you can see them all at the same time, but I am using Gin free software. If anyone is interested in what that table management is and how some of these overlays appear, it's Gin. If you just Google that, it is available for free, and I do use it. I recommend it. I think it's very good. That should have been a shove. I wasn't looking. I was too busy looking at the overlays. Focus for today is my c-bet strategy. I'm working on an actual c-bet strategy and sticking to it rather than doing what feels right at that particular time. Or just defaulting to always c-betting. I'm trying to have a standard c-bet range of middle pair plus, gut shot plus, and any pair plus draw. I will increase that range if I've got a combination of good factors, and the good factors that I'm looking for are dry boards when villain's range misses and my range hits, if I'm heads up and or in position, and if their fall to c-bet is greater than 60%, that they appear to be flop honest. I will add hands to that range based on those factors in this order. Overcards on dry boards, backdoor draws, and then obviously only last but least, when all those factors may be in place, then we're looking at c-betting with air to take it down. I'll also decrease the c-bet range depending on negative factors, and the negative factors are essentially the reverse of those things. So we're looking at wet boards when villain's range hits and I didn't hit. If I've got a multi-way and or out of position pot, if their fall to c-bet is less than 50%, then I will subtract the hands from my c-betting range in this order. The gut shots will come out first, the pair plus draws will come out second, and the flush draws will come out after that. Again, that was intended to be 15. I need to watch what I'm doing. I'm not looking at my numbers before. I'm just pressing the buttons and assuming. Obviously, it wouldn't have mattered. It would have been a fold anyway. It's going to be about a half an hour session. My standard raise from small blind, big blind is 3. And obviously I've hit top pair, so that's going to be a bet. I've also got a gut shot. So I'm not going to go overboard with the bet size. 2 big blinds should do it. If I actually want to call. Excellent. I'm just going to call his raise. I've now got 2 pair, which is good. Obviously, if he has a jack, he's just hit his gut shot. Any amount of combos with jacks are in that range. And of course, also in his calling range pre-flop there are plenty of hands that have a better 2 pair than me now. So perhaps should have been more aggressive on the turn and taken it down. There we go. Yeah, should have done. Should have been more aggressive on that turn. That being said, the check on the river was the right thing to do given the situation as I'd created. He would have called and I would have lost more by trying to make something out of nothing, trying to turn a bad situation into a bluff. At that point, my mistake was made. Best thing to do is recognise that and not compound error with error. It's quite possible that's not done bad for my table image either. I now look pretty tight. So I've got a small opening size from the first two seats at the table. Oh, but again, I didn't know somebody was sitting out there. Need to watch more and talk less. Effectively, oh no, sorry, I'm in the second seat at the table. Effectively, you always count in this direction. So cut off and button, my opening raise is 2.5, and under the gun and under the gun plus one, or middle position, whatever you want to call it, is 2.2. Seems to get the job done, but it's also small enough to fold if I get three bet, which is likely, and it also means that we can profitably have a bit of a wider range and get ourselves involved in a few extra pots. Again, top pair. I don't particularly want to call, so I'm going to increase my bet size very slightly. You don't want to see the draws that are possible now, with there being two connectors and the flush draw. We don't mind so much now that we've hit those trips. Some of those outs would now also okay, so the draws didn't come in. I am going to keep betting this. They have given me the signal they like their hand with two calls, so a third call is for value here. Didn't get that value as they didn't call. Maybe it was a lost cause. They were never going to call anyway. You never know. They might have just had a busted flush draw. Or perhaps I should have bet a little bit smaller on the river, maybe. Get some value out of those one pair hands that may have hit. Ace is obviously a good, although I haven't played a hand at this table yet, so I may not get action. You have to give action to get action, but stick to the standard 3 in small blind versus big blind situation. Excellent. I'm happy with that. Now to 4-bet or trap. I'm going to play it straight forward and put in a reasonably smallish 4-bet. We've got the call, which is good. I'm going to hit that at 50%. See what he does. Obviously, the overpair is in our standard range, so no other considerations to go in. This stats are negligible as well because that's not a big enough sample. Obviously, only one of those, and that's going to be a call. The only thing I don't want to see here is jacks. We're definitely in his range, and he has the queen, so that's good. Running it twice, minimising our variance, which is always good as well. Never ever cash out or use any of those equity cashing out features, whatever other sites call them. I know GG have a similar thing, the insurance they call it. All you're doing there is handing over equity in order to realise your equity in this particular situation. But over the long run, you are paying a premium for doing so, and therefore it costs you EV. But running it twice, sometimes there's a sting. When you were miles ahead and you win the first one and lose the second, sometimes there's a bit of a bonus where you were behind and you win any one of them. But overall, what it does is it reduces your variance. Okay. If you are not sure on that, please search out any videos from any of the experts. As I've said a number of times, I'm not an expert. But I have watched the experts talk about it, and they know the maths and they explain it very well. Nothing enough to go on there to increase our range. So even though we have 2 overcards, now one of our backdoor draw cards have hit. That is one of my other stipulations is that if the backdoor draw card comes and we've had no aggressive action from villain, I will bet at it. But under the circumstances of him betting at it, I don't think that's then a call. Again, nothing wrong with being tight. The chances of him having air are very slim there. So we absolutely don't have the odds to hope a heart comes. And even then, sometimes we are beaten by the ace-high flush. Jacks to that size of 3-bet is going to be a call. We're effectively set mining. And obviously with 2 overcards to jacks, we're out of this hand as soon as he shows some action. Not only will he either have hit a pair of aces, a pair of kings, he may have hit 2 pair with ace king, but also any 2 Broadway cards now have at least a straight draw of some kind, whether it's gut shot or an effective open ender like a double gut shot. Obviously, lots of suited connectors have hit flush draws, and even if he was being silly with a pair of sevens, there's plenty of hands in his range that have got us absolutely crushed. My raise over limper is actually 6. I exploit those limpers a little bit more than most people do, and out of position I add 1. Rather than my standard amount +1 for each limper, I do like to exploit the limpers a little bit further and really punish them. So the stats are negligible. We only have 2 overcards. It's not really in our range. Out of position. I would say it's potential that my image could win the pot with a bet there. I haven't we haven't really had long enough to create an image, but I'm guessing he is an observant player based on what he's done so far, and he would assume, based on what he's seen, that I'm playing quite tight. But you never know. Waited and we delayed it until we had a pair, went for it then instead. If we were getting action with that pair, it was probably that we would have been possibly beaten by 2 pair or the flush, because it was a diamond that came. But you've got to have a stab. King 6 is obviously a fold, and 10-5 suited is obviously going to be a fold as well. Pre-flop, I will use the pre action sort of buttons like fold when it gets to me. Auto check though in things like post flop, terrible idea. They know if you've pressed that, they know what that button says. It says check or fold, so they know that you had nothing. And then if you do that on the flop or whatever, on the turn, the next street, they know they can just steal that pot because they know your intentions were to fold. Auto buttons, terrible idea. Any situation other than pre-flop when it's simply to fold. I wouldn't even use the check fold one if I'm in the big blind. If anyone is wondering what the HUD is as well, it's not something that I created myself. It's something that is available to buy from Smart Poker Study, Sky Matsuhashi, the Poker Forge, all those things that he's involved with. If you're a poker player, I'm sure you've heard of him. I think it's about $15 or something like that, and it comes with the HUD, the tournament version of the same HUD, which is equally as good in my opinion, but it's tailored to tournaments, and it also comes with quite a lengthy webinar teaching you how to use it and quizzing you on certain things as well to improve your usage of it. It's really good. Lots of pop-ups. Are very useful, very detailed. I often find that when I'm doing off the felt work, the information that I need to make the right decisions is there for me. It's just a case of getting in the habit of using that information a little bit more while I'm actually playing. Standard 3 from small blind to big blind. Happy with the call. We've actually only got third pair, but we do also have the initiative. Heads up, out of position. Not enough stats to make any judgment. So under our quite strict rules, it is going to be a check. Now, because he checked in that situation, it's now going to be a delayed c-bet. And then we're checking it down. He may well have been calling with some sort of draw. No, he had the pair. Fair enough. Again, second pair is in our standard c-bet range. That's a meaningless size. In my experience, flop calls are usually at least a pair. So when the second queen comes in there, we don't want to keep inflating the pot. We'll see if we can check it down. It's a situation where we'll only get called by better hands. We won't get called by worse hands. Now, if we would only get called by better hands, I think we should say that he would only do that with better hands as well. He should only get called by better hands. If we call and lose here, we are probably being a bit of a fool. I'm going to give that a smaller raise than 3 times. I do think the only thing they may have hit there is a draw, or they might have an overpair. Hopefully it's not, it's not aces, but they would have 4-bet if they had aces, wouldn't they? They called a 3-bet. I think they had a overpair that wasn't queens or above. They may have had jacks, 10s, 9s, 8s. Those are the sort of hands that would have called the 3-bet, but not 4-bet. There's a possibility of suited connectors as well, and that they had a open-ended straight draw. Better to take the pot, and thankful that he bet at it in the first place. If you call and try and get trappy, what often happens in my experience is that the trap backfires. Better to take the value while the value's there. Take the value while you're ahead. Which we've done successfully so far this session. We are $68 up. Not a bad return for 20 minutes work. He likes to have a one and done sort of strategy. So if I hit anything, which I have done, I'm going to allow him to do his one. One c-bet, reasonably high, which means he takes a lot of trash to the turn and then he doesn't follow it up. So I'm going to play that reasonably passively, and then I'm going to try and take it down. There we go. If that was something like complete blank, I may have allowed him to bet again and then raised him. But that would be unlikely. As I say, 20%. With it being what it was, actually, although it did strengthen my hand, it also strengthened the potential of the board. I think being quite kindly treated by the pocket pairs. He has very, very wide opening range here, so it's going to be a fairly standard 3-bet instead of a call. Once that, if we call and the flop comes down, anything but a set means we're guessing what he may have hit. But to take the value while the value's there. If he calls, the set is still a possibility, and if he folds, we take down his initial raise. But with tens against someone who has a opening raise size of range of 35% of hands and 60% c betting, we're not going to take that down. We've now hit a flush draw, but again, no c bet because it didn't fall into our categories. It does now, so we'll go for it. And we've also had passivity twice. 2 checks from villain equals a bet from us, in my opinion. Should have tagged him a little while ago. I usually try and tag people after about 20 hands, and then just keep an eye on them all. Don't rely on them. Never changing after 20 hands, obviously, but be aware of just not leaving people blank for too long. Give yourself something to work with very, very soon. Sometimes you find that you give them the tag after 20 hands, and after 200 hands it hasn't changed because they can be quite accurate. You almost always find that after 100, the basic things don't change. I've got some players where I've got 2,000 hands on them, and they haven't changed since the first 100 in terms of their category. And obviously, PFR and VPIP are the things that make those categories for me. The rest of it's just details. Player type, you can work out from those things. He's getting that tag fish Monica. His opening range appears to be reasonable, but his calling range appears to be a little bit too wide, which is probably why I'm guessing he'll be a losing player indeed. Purely the set mine. Set hasn't happened, so we are out of this hand. Even in that situation with the double check, I'm still out as more overcards arrived after the first check. 2s really are nothing. He's a borderline decision, 23-20. He's a one and done type C better. Takes trash to the turn. If this session was going to go on for too much longer, I would leave this table and look for a better one. Now that it's three-handed, but the session is going to last about 3.5 more minutes, so I'm just going to stick with it. It's now heads up, which means I will be changing my strategy slightly on this one. Obviously top pair on this one. Weak kicker in a huge pot, but it's worth finding out where you're at. Huge pot, by the way, I mean a huge amount of players, 4 players to a pot, and it must be limpers because I can't remember how I've ended up in the hand. I think it must have just checked to me. Obviously, if that wasn't heads up, that wouldn't be a bet. And even heads up, it's not calling a 3-bet. And again, this wouldn't be a 3-bet if it wasn't heads up, but heads up, hand values rocket, and then so does the bluff value. It's a very light 3-bet. There we go. The credit he'll give us for having hit something there rises because he knows that we would have 3-bet with a wider range, assuming that he knows a little bit about heads up, which I'm assuming he does because that's probably why he's staying at the table. I don't seek out heads up play myself in cash games, but when it actually happens, I don't mind it. It's a bit of a change. It's a bit interesting. As long as you're playing within your role, what's the worst that can happen? You learn. You win or you learn. On that board, I'm not happy with top pair versus aggression, so that's a fold. Again, top pair is definitely worth a bet. We are no longer heads up. Oh, never mind. Credit to him. Again, to set mine. No set, no aggression from us, and we are out if we face aggression. So typical that we've got that little $12 loss in that pot at the end of the session. We are still on a very successful little half hour. Again, just a cheeky set mine, and we begin to close all the tables down. No set. We are out. I should probably set mine less frequently. Have more of a strategy around it. Do quite like to set mine, and I effectively set mine every time that I have a pocket pair. And I know that's the wrong thing to do. Should be looking more at stack sizes and playability post flop, particularly stack sizes compared to the size of the bet that I'm calling, in order to check that we have the right type of odds. It's not just a case of knowing that you're going to flop your set eight times out of whatever 12% of the time or something like that it is, isn't it? But I've actually forgotten the statistic. Um, but yes, the people often quote 15 to 1 rule or something, for the implied odds. The odds have to be there, in order to make it worth the set mine, so that when you do hit your set, you're likely to get paid. So player type, how likely they are to pay you off when you have your set, player type, and how large the effective stack is, should be more of a consideration than I give it credit. I should probably study that a little bit more and then stick to it. If I do study it, I will then play with that focus in mind, a little bit like I am at the moment, with my focus on the CBET strategy, and I'll try and embed that into my play, so that playing isn't just playing. Playing is also part of the learning process. So not a great end there. If I move my poker tracker over onto the screen, it's a sea of red on the recent hands, but a $43 um, profit over 277 hands over half an hour. So a decent short session, and we continue on the up.